Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. 4 years ago today, Andrzej Duda became the president of Poland. The Law and Justice Party candidate defeated the Civic Platform Party candidate in the second round with more than 518,000 more votes than his opponent.
Andrzej Duda has completed the fourth year of his presidency. Last year, the Polish president met with the US president in the White House twice.
I'm trying to fulfill my campaign promises from 2015. I'm happy that Poland is changing for the better. This was the main goal, to change hard-working people's lives and make Polish families' lives better. Those people are at the heart of my thoughts and my work. I'm fighting for the matters of ordinary people who don't have privileges and huge benefits, who have to work hard for their money and then a small pension.
The president submitted nearly 30 projects of draft law, including the reinforcement of the retirement age of 60 years for women and 65 years for men, increasing the tax-free allowance, and introducing help for people who took out loans in the franc currency. Politicians have mixed opinions on Duda's term of office.
When comparing Duda to the former presidents, especially to Bronisław Komorowski, we have to say that he makes less blow than his forerunner. He feels good in the international environment, he speaks many languages, he knows how to behave. But when it comes to Polish trade, it's obvious that he's not an independent president, but the president of the Law and Justice Party.
The Injustice Party MP Jan Mosiński has a different view. In his opinion, Andrzej Duda is a true statesman.
He's a good president, he represents Poland in a good way. He doesn't make gaffes like his forerunner, Mr. Komorowski. We can't even compare these two.
At the beginning of August, the leader of the Law and Justice Party said that we have an amazing president who should be elected for another term of office. His term of office will end in 2020, and so far everything indicates that he's going to be running for re-election.
The annual Polish pilgrimage from Warsaw to Jasna Góra, the sacred hill in Częstochowa in the south of Poland, has begun. Some of the pilgrims joined the 308th pilgrimage of the Pauline Fathers Church at Długa Street, and others the academic pilgrimage of the 17th groups, which was inaugurated by a solemn blessing at the Church of St. Anna in Warsaw's Old Town.
The 17th groups began their march under the slogan "Spirit gives life." Every year there is a similar number of people in our pilgrimage, around 1,500. We're part of the 308th Warsaw pilgrimage, but as the 17th groups, under our own name. Among the pilgrims there are families with little children who are not afraid of marching for 8 days.
Idę po pierwsze, żeby ładować moje akumulatory, po drugie idę z dzieckiem.
I'm going to charge my batteries and show my kids that there are still values in this world which are worth believing in, because this is what really matters, to have values in this contemporary, often faithless world. Why should we live our lives without any sense to it? Of course you can, but I think that with the Christian hope and faith that we will be resurrected, living is easier.
My, jako chrześcijanie na zmartwychwstanie, żyje się po prostu łatwiej.
Idziemy na Jasną Górę i to
We're going to Jasna Góra and we wait all year for this.
czeka na ten moment po prostu.
Which pilgrimage is this for you?
Nie wiem, chyba
I'm not sure, 6th or 7th.
To ciekawe, ja pochodzę z Częstochowy.
I'm actually from Częstochowa, so you could say I'm going back home. The pilgrimage definitely gives me more strength than it takes. The pilgrims will reach Jasna Góra on August 14th, the day before the celebrations of the Assumption of Mary.
On Monday, 88 out of 100 US senators signed a letter to the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. The letter urges Pompeo to put pressure on Poland on the issue of restitution of property of Holocaust victims. In May last year, President Trump signed the S-447 Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act, concerning the return of property of Holocaust victims to their rightful owners or their heirs. But its provisions are mainly symbolic and declarative.
I think the question of Act 447 has already been discussed repeatedly. There is no danger in terms of us having to pay off Jewish communities in the United States of America. These issues have also been regulated in bilateral agreements, as far as Poland and the United States of America are concerned. I say this in relation to the Verification Commission. So these indemnification agreements also regulated all claims, and I think the topic is closed. But some senators want to make a name for themselves and signal their presence in some way. Presently, I believe that this topic is, in my opinion, closed. There is no threat to Poland regarding any claims from Jewish communities.
The primary elections in Argentina will take place on August the 11th. And despite not having much influence on who the main presidential candidates in the general election in late October will be, experts say it will be the first test of the level support for incumbent right-wing President Mauricio Macri's economic reforms.
The markets have reacted nervously to opinion polls showing Macri trailing to his main rival Alberto Fernandez and his Peronist faction. Many suspect that the running mate of Fernandez, the more left-wing radical Cristina Kirchner, will politically dominate Argentina again if Fernandez wins the election. Macri recently took his re-election campaign to a cattle show in Buenos Aires, reaching out to the agriculture sector in a bid to narrow the gap to his opponent. Dear Argentines, things are in motion and will pick up once we get out of this political uncertainty, once we have confirmed that we're going forward and not going back to the past. Now more than ever, we want to live in a real democracy, without authoritarianism, without arrogance, with no mafia and with the truth. In a country that fights drug trafficking, where public works start and conclude, where money that has been stolen because of corruption is recovered. That is the Argentina we want and that we're building. Because the Argentina that we want isn't in the past, it's in the future. The Argentinian presidential election will take place on October 27th.
Yesterday, Italy's Senate approved a tougher law on immigration, targeting the NGO vessels trying to disembark migrants in the country. The new decree allows for captains of NGO vessels to be arrested if they ignore orders to stay away from Italian waters, and calls on naval authorities to seize vessels automatically if they attempt to disembark migrants against orders.
The decree has been drawn up by the country's Minister of the Interior, Matteo Salvini. The new law will increase the fines for NGO vessels who try to force their way into Italian ports from 50,000 to €1 million. Protesters gathered in front of Parliament during the vote, arguing that Italy must take in a larger number of African migrants. However, the Italian public doesn't seem to agree with that sentiment. Salvini's popularity has soared on the back of his uncompromising anti-migrant position. His Lega party has broken a new record in a poll by the Winpoll agency. It showed that 39% of voters intended to vote for the party, more than doubling its share of votes at last year's parliamentary election. Nevertheless, African migrants keep making the journey over the Mediterranean Sea to Italy. On the same day the Senate approved the new law, a video of a so-called ghost landing in Sicily appeared online. Ghost landing is the name given to the phenomenon of wooden boats or dinghies with migrants arriving to European shores without being intercepted by the Coast Guard or authorities. The incoming president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, argues that the EU will need to adopt a new common asylum law, based on countries accepting EU migrant quotas.
I want to propose a new pact for migration and asylum because I think we need a new and fresh view and start on migration. We know that migration will not go away. It is inherent in a globalized world. When it comes to burden sharing, yes, indeed, I think we need a new kind of burden sharing. And I'm aware of the fact that countries like Italy, like Greece, like Spain, are in an exposed geographical position. So we have to take that into account, and solidarity is needed.
Germany has taken the lead in redistributing migrants across Europe. On Sunday, an NGO vessel carrying 40 migrants that had been denied access to Italian ports was allowed to dock in Malta after a German intervention and negotiations with the European Commission. It appears that the Visegrad Group's proposition to close Europe's maritime borders for migrant vessels is so far falling on deaf ears.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned for Poland Daily weather. That's followed by the business, then the culture, history, and finally the travel.